Rural Americans deserve access to the best of what our nation has to offer, especially healthcare. Across every state and every community, America's rural hospitals are the first line of defense, protecting our families, neighbors, and loved ones. No matter where you live, hospital care doesn't clock out. They're there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Each year, America's over 5,000 hospitals care for millions of patients, providing 24/7 emergency care, delivering babies, cancer treatments, and other life-saving care that patients rely on. Behind every one of those patients are doctors, nurses, and caregivers working tirelessly to keep people healthy and safe. Hospitals are our community's lifelines. They employ our neighbors and keep our families healthy. But now, some in Congress are threatening access to care. Tell Congress, protect patient care to keep America strong. Don't cut rural health care.
He's at war with woke.
Joe Concha
thinks liberals are a joke.
Joe Concha.
This is the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition, sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Here's Joe Concha.
Happy Monday night, everybody. Not so happy, however, for the Congresswoman representing the 14th District of New York. That, of course, is Queens and the Bronx. That is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Touted by more than a few people in this ridiculous media industry as somebody who is a serious challenger for the presidency in 2028. Well, she had a bad trip to Munich. I mean, embarrassingly, painfully, very, very, very awkward and cringe to listen to. And look, this isn't like, hey, let's pick on the Democratic Congresswoman. You know, oh, Republicans pounce on AOC for a little gaffe and get a stat right. No, she said some profoundly, no other word for it, stupid things when she was over there. This person has no business being in the United States Congress, which is a pretty low bar, let alone president of the United States, and certainly not vice president of the United States as well. Then again, Kamala, if that's the bar, well, I hate to say it, but Kamala Harris compared to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez in these clips sounds like Margaret Thatcher. Trust me. Here's the first clip. And this sounds like a sophomore in high school who didn't study the night before, then had a surprise oral exam where they had to get to a minimum word/time count. And you can tell she has never given this question even one thought in her 34 years on this planet. I'll show you what I mean. This is cut number one. Go.
Would and should the U.S. actually commit U.S. troops to defend Taiwan if China were to move?
I think that this is such a, I think that this is a, this is, of course, a very longstanding policy of the United States. And I think what we are hoping for is that we want to make sure that we never get to that point. And we want to make sure that we are moving in all of our economic research and our global positions to avoid any such confrontation and for that question to even arise.
I don't know what she said there at the end. I honestly do not. The question is, what do you do if China decides to move on Taiwan? And she obviously hasn't given this much thought throughout all those thousands of TikTok videos and X posts and Facebook posts. This is not her sweet spot. It's not even on the bat. She's not even on the field with that sort of answer. And if you're China and you listen to that, and this person somehow becomes president, you go into Taiwan about 5 minutes after inauguration, because you could tell you have a commander in chief who has no idea where Taiwan is on a map, let alone would know what to do in that sort of situations. By the way, if you're counting at home, she did 7 uhs and ums in the first 10 seconds of that particular answer. And I thought she was supposed to be this great communicator, could really think on her feet. Karine Jean-Pierre watched that and said, boy, that was awkward. Believe me. Meanwhile, here she is now talking about, again, this is more her sweet spot, I guess, talking about race and systemic racism and white and black and Latino, and just everything is through the lens of victimhood, and how white supremacy and white people in general are evil, and everybody else is the victim of that evil. Anyway, here is cut number 2. This is where AOC is arguing there is no cultural whiteness or something. Cut 2, go.
There's a very big difference between whiteness and national, like your actual culture, right? Whiteness is an imaginary thing. Being German is real. Being Italian is real. Being English. These are rich cultural heritages that are based on values, and they are so much a part of what make our cultures and our societies what they are.
You can't make up any sort of snarky response to respond to that with that is effective enough, quite frankly. In fact, you don't need a snarky response. Just play it and just let it speak for itself. There is no cultural whiteness there. It's imaginary whiteness. What does that mean? Why is she even talking about this in Munich? What does it have to do with anything? Oh, it gets worse. So Marco Rubio, the current Secretary of State, National Security Advisor, who will be president one day, save the tape, guarantee it. If he runs, it will be an absolute landslide. I don't see any other scenario in terms of Rubio. He is so polished now, and not polished like in an authentic way, not in a way that he's scripted or remembers talking points. I would say that about Marco Rubio in 2016 when he ran for president. Definitely scripted, definitely needed too much water when he did any sort of speech, and then self-imploded on a debate stage with Chris Christie taking him down, of all people. Since then, Rubio is now confident in his arguments. I mean, overwhelmingly confident, and a guy who just knows his stuff. And in this case, he was talking about over in Munich as well, about how American cowboys, that was actually born out of Spain. I'm Spanish. You probably know this story pretty well, how horses were brought over to Mexico when the Aztec Empire was being conquered. And then from there, more horses were breeded and spread out throughout North America. And eventually, obviously, from Mexico to Texas, cowboys, riding horses. That was a whole thing that originated from Spanish culture. Okay, that's just a fact. Now, here's AOC. She gets wind of this, and she thinks that she's going to dunk on Marco Rubio. Oh, this is cut number 3. Go.
Rubio's speech was a pure appeal to Western culture. My favorite part was when he said that American cowboys came from Spain.
I thought that too, but
I believe the Mexicans and descendants of African enslaved peoples would like to have a word on that.
Wait, what? African slaves want to have a word on that? They brought over horses, AOC? No, it was actually the Spanish that did that. I mean, at no point during all of these rambling, incoherent responses is she coming even close to anything resembling a rational thought. Everyone in this world is now dumber for having heard it, and I'm sorry that I had to play it for you. So that was gaffe. I don't even want to call it gaffe. Gaffe is so generous. That was the word we used to use with Joe Biden. They're not gaffes. She's not smart. She doesn't know history, obviously. She's obsessed with race and racism. And on China and Taiwan, forget about it. This is also the same person, by the way, if you want to talk about her foreign policy chops. She cried on the floor of the U.S. Congress when funds were allocated and it passed in the House, because that's where the purse strings are held, millions of dollars for the Iron Dome in Israel, which has saved countless lives, tens of thousands of lives, probably has saved Israel from extinction. Because if you can't knock those rockets coming from Hezbollah and Hamas and the Houthis and all these people that are attacking Israel from all sides, civilian targets, obviously. And those missiles could come down in perpetuity, funded by Iran. How could Israel survive that without a defense system? And she cried when that passed. And then she had the audacity, while in Munich, once again, remember where Munich is? What country is that in again? I'm trying to remember. All right, Germany, where they had an actual genocide carried out by the Nazis. And this person is then talking about how Israel carried out a genocide against the Palestinian people in Gaza. Didn't say one thing after Hamas attacked Israel, October 7th, 2023, killing more than 1,200 people, including Americans. Suddenly, Miss Twitter wasn't on Twitter for a couple days, couldn't even condemn it. And then cried, obviously, when the Iron Dome was funded, and then accuses Netanyahu of genocide. The worst attack on Jews since the Holocaust. And she's blaming Israel. Of course she is. That's her thing. So again, if she's president, China goes into Taiwan, no problem. Hamas, all these terror groups will be completely emboldened because she's on their side. And then I guess, she'll have more history lessons about American cowboys not being born out of Spain when they were, and tries to mock a guy like Marco Rubio, smartest guy in the room, over something like that. And we should have seen this coming for a long time, because in Cut 5, here's AOC talking about how the world is going to end by 2031. She said this in 2019, which means we only got 5 years to go. Gee, can someone play this clip back for us sometime to say, hey, how's that whole world ending thing coming along? This is cut number 5. Go.
And we're like, the world is going to end in 12 years if we don't address climate change. And your biggest issue is how are we going to pay for it? And this is the war. This is our World War II.
Oh, there she is, World War II again. How are we going to, your biggest worry is how we're going to pay for it? She wanted 5-6 trillion with the T dollars to fight so-called climate change. This hypocrite, when she could take a train, I've done it a billion times, from New York to Washington, she still flies. She still goes back and forth around New York in an SUV. This is somebody who has This is somebody who has flown private, going to her Fight the Oligarchy tour events, rallies, where she talks about climate change. And then she's on Learjets, private jets, $15,000 an hour. Unbelievable. The hubris on this person. Oh, here's one more great one, by the way, from Munich. Here's AOC talking about Venezuela and how we couldn't go into that particular country to take out an illegitimate president who we had an arrest warrant for, who was indicted 6 years ago, who Joe Biden promised to get and didn't do anything. Trump goes in, does the snatch and grab, and most Americans agree with Trump's move there, except for AOC, of course. And then she gives us another geography lesson on, let's see, why we can't go into Venezuela, because it's below the equator. There's just one little problem with that I'll tell you about when we come back from this at cut number 6. Go.
We look at what happened in Venezuela, for example. It is not a remark on who Maduro was as a leader. He canceled elections. He was an anti-democratic leader. That doesn't mean that we can kidnap a head of state and engage in acts of war just because the nation is below the equator. And
they all clap. Oh, this without applause.
And by the way,
you would think that speech was done in front of Colbert's audience or The View. Oh no, this is at some sort of prestigious world conference in Munich, Germany. One little problem, says we can't go to Venezuela because it's below the equator. It's not, you moron. Not even close. I don't see what difference that makes anyway, but fine. Can't just go in there because Venezuela is below the equator. Oops, it's not. And by the way, kidnap Maduro? No. Again, does she know what an arrest warrant is? Does she know that this guy was sending drugs into this country, killing thousands upon thousands of Americans? How 8 million people have fled Venezuela in one of the biggest humanitarian crises we have ever seen. His own people, he starved. Venezuela used to be the crown jewel of South America in terms of, boy, it's got a lot of black gold underneath that soil. And that guy destroyed the lives of many people. Trump does the right thing. AOC, you are not ready for prime time. You're not ready for any time for that matter. This is Joe Concha. This is Concha at Night. Back with so much more in just a moment.
I only wanna be by your side. Please don't ever let me be. I only wanna be by your side.
This is the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition.
Joe Concha.
Sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation.
Rural Americans deserve access to the best of what our nation has to offer, especially health care. Across every state and every community, America's rural hospitals are the first line of defense, protecting our families, neighbors, and loved ones. No matter where you live, hospital care doesn't clock out. They're there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Each year, America's over 5,000 hospitals care for millions of patients, providing 24/7 emergency care, delivering babies, cancer treatments, and other life-saving care that patients rely on. Behind every one of those patients are doctors, nurses, and caregivers working tirelessly to keep people healthy and safe. Hospitals are our community's lifelines. They employ our neighbors and keep our families healthy. But now, some in Congress are threatening access to care. Tell Congress, protect patient care to keep America strong. Don't cut rural health care.
This is the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition. Sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Here's Joe Concha.
Van Halen. Stop that screaming. Teacher, don't you see? All right. I am insulting David Lee Roth here in the worst way possible. Van Halen is probably the only band. I mean, I guess there's been a couple of others. If you want to count the Eagles, I suppose. Post Glenn Frey and Don Henley taking over completely. But we go from David Lee Roth to Sammy Hagar. That was not the big drop that everybody thought it would be. I am in that very, very small minority who thought that Van Hagar was almost as good as Van Halen, which you're listening to now. Hot for Teacher. I believe that was 1984. We're going to have Kevin look that up, and he could get in my ear and say, yep, you're right. Or I could be wrong. Yep, he just got in my ear and said, yep, 1984. It's pretty good. It's 42 years ago. And the great Eddie Van Halen, obviously, passed away too soon. The best guitarist of all time. That's not an opinion. That is a fact. Anyway, let's get to our next incredible soundbite, shall we? And this is cut number 15. This is the best thing ever. This is about a woman who is from Mexico talking about how Mexico is the greatest country in the world, but then tries to explain why people had to leave the greatest country in the world to come here. Boy, if they had it so good, why'd you leave? This is cut number 15. Go.
What is the best country in the world?
What is the what?
What is the best country in the world?
Mexico, definitely for sure, Mexico.
Mexico?
Mexico.
So why do you think these people don't want to go back?
I think it's because we sacrifice a lot to be here, and we all want people to come in the right way as well, but things are better over here in America, and they're gonna try their best to be here.
Well, you just said Mexico is the best country in the world.
It is, but I think that I'm sorry.
Yeah, talk about talking yourself into a corner on that one. Mexico is the greatest country in the world. Oh, why'd you leave and come here instead? Well, didn't really have much of an answer for that. Again, if you had greatness, why leave greatness? Why come here if you had it so good there? Just a question. And that was an excellent interview by whoever that was. I should give you attribution, but you weren't on screen. No one identified you, and that's just the way that goes. Anyway, this is Concha at Night. Joe Concha, your host. Back with so much more in just a moment.
Hey, it's Sterling K. Brown from the Hulu original series Paradise. The next chapter begins as Xavier's search for his wife takes him above ground, and what he finds will change everything. It was never just about the bunker. Tune in and discover the truth lies outside. Paradise, the official podcast, is now streaming, and stream Paradise Season 2 on February 23rd on Hulu and Hulu on Disney+.
This is the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition, sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Here's Joe Concha.
There. Van Halen 2, I believe. Where's this diver down? See, we're going back 45 years, guys. I can't believe this is 45 years old. It's like the anthem of my youth. Oh, today's my birthday, by the way. I should mention that. Pulling out around the world. It's a shame they broke up. You know, David Lee and Alex Van Halen, Eddie Van Halen just could not see eye to eye. And David ultimately wanted more, I guess, keyboard. Probably not the right word, but he wanted like kind of a softer tone. And Eddie and Alex were all about good, hardcore 70s rock. Eventually that wasn't going to work. Oh, the egos didn't really get along either, but it happens with every band, I feel like, right? Who does stay together? Diver down, thank you. My second instinct was correct. All right. So let's talk Hillary Clinton, shall we? Because I know you want to hear from her. Well, this is a great clip. Boy, a lot happened at this Munich conference, didn't it? And all for Democrats, not good at all. Here she is clashing with the deputy prime minister, he meant to say, of the Czech Republic. His name is Peter Makina. And yeah, this is like a back and forth that just shows you that Hillary is just not a good person at all. And she's now been on this 10-year public therapy tour ever since she lost in 2016, when she absolutely, around 5 o'clock that night, thought she was going to win easily, make history, first female president, overcome all those Monica things and everything else. She thought she had that in the bag and then some. And when she lost, she's never gotten over it. Has been quite angry at basically everybody ever since. Anyway, here is cut number 9. Hillary and the Czechs going at it. Go.
We saw the cancel culture. We saw the woke revolution. I don't agree with the gender revolution, the climate alarmism.
Which gender? Women having their rights? Let Peter go on.
I think there are 2 genders. So, but some of us think that there is more than one, or more than 2. More than 2 gender. I think there is male and female, and the rest probably is a social construct. So this is something that went too far.
But does that justify selling out the people of Ukraine who are on the front lines dying to save their freedom and their 2 genders? If that's what you're worried about?
Can I please finish my points? I'm sorry that it makes you nervous. I'm really sorry for that.
It makes me nervous. It makes me but seriously.
Saucer of milk, table 2. Oh, that was like Jerry Springer like almost. And the Czech deputy prime minister was just so calm. He was just finding the whole thing so amusing. She starts screaming about like selling out the people of Ukraine. I mean, boy, talk about, I know we dodged a bullet with Kamala Harris, and certainly with Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. A very close second probably was Hillary Clinton, because her persona on the outside, and this entitlement that she thinks that she should have been anointed president of the United States because she had the most extensive resume, was more prepared for the presidency than anybody who's ever run. She believed all that stuff. And again, she really thought she was going to win. Remember that one clip where she goes, "You may be wondering," and she was screaming, "Why am I not up by 50 points right now?" Well, like that's what she thought. Like, how is this Trump guy even close to me? And for her to get beat in the way she did, by the way, losing Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, the blue wall, which hadn't fallen in so long, absolutely delicious. Meanwhile, here is Hillary. Again, the rewriting of history that Democrats are trying to do here is something to behold, because now she's going off on open borders. And hey, maybe this whole mass migration thing isn't a good idea. She sounds like, I don't know, Donald Trump. Cut number 10, go.
I think we need to call it for what it is.
Secretary
There is a
Clinton.
legitimate reason to have a debate about things like migration. It went too far. It's been disruptive and destabilizing, and it needs to be fixed in a humane way with secure borders that don't torture and kill people.
Torture and kill people? I guess that's in reference to Trump. Are we torturing and killing people at the border that try to get in illegally? Or are we just not letting them in or sending them back, deporting, like Bill Clinton did a lot of, deported more people in this country than anybody in history to that point, until another Democrat, Barack Obama, deported even more than he did, more than 3 million people. Now Trump is the inhumane, evil guy for just doing what her husband did and what Barack Obama did, and she used to ridicule Trump over the wall, and now she's screaming about open borders. Now we need more security? Screw you. Enough. Oh. Anyway, can we play that? I got to play this one more time in case you weren't listening earlier, Kevin. So a little curveball here for you. Sorry. Can we go with AOC and cut number 3 again, mocking Marco Rubio over the origins of the American cowboy, which, yes, did come originally from Spain. Let's do that. Cut number 3. Go.
Rubio's speech was a pure appeal to Western culture. My favorite part was when he said that American cowboys came from Spain. I believe the Mexicans and descendants of African enslaved peoples would like to have a word on that.
Well, she's completely wrong, and I'll just let my colleague at Fox, Jimmy Johnson, he put it best back in 1993. Cut number 11, go.
And the only thing else I got to say is, how about them Cowboys?
All right, Kev, we can get out of there. How about them Cowboys? I hope that Rubio puts that somehow in some sort of social media post. He's not really a troll, but boy, if he's going to start, this could be a good time to do it. No question about it. Meanwhile, another Democrat also talking a lot lately, when we haven't heard from him lately, and that is the aforementioned Barack Obama. And he says here with a straight face, and he was not joking, that Democrats really, their party is all about bringing folks together. Cut number 16, go.
The other side does the mean, angry,
demagoguery,
exclusive, us, them, divisive politics. That's their home court.
Yeah.
Okay.
Our court is coming together. Our court is, look, a great example. Wasn't political.
Yeah.
Bad Bunny's halftime show.
I knew you were going to say that. Yeah.
Well, it
Bad
was,
Bunny.
It resonated. It was smart because it wasn't preaching. It was showing. It was demonstrating and displaying. This is what a community is.
You've got to be kidding me. Bad Bunny? Holy moly. Oh, Obama's so average. And what he thinks he says is so profound. And no, not even close. Bud. Anyway, speaking of unity, let's hear from James Carville, a guy that, just rode the Clinton train back in 1992. Clinton was going to get elected in that particular election no matter what, because we were in a recession. We had 12 years of Republican rule. George H.W. Bush seemed disinterested, for lack of a better term. And a change was going to come. And oh, by the way, Ross Perot took away about 20% of the vote in that election, which means that Clinton won with 43% of the vote. And we got to hear from James Carville all these years later, 34 years later, how great that campaign was and how much of a genius he was. And boy, he is just a savant when it comes to predicting what's going to happen in the political world. Okay. And here's one of them, and then we'll give you his track record. But also, let's listen to the message of unity that Barack Obama says absolutely is out there among Democrats. And James Carville is exhibit A of that, right? Oh, it's opposite day, by the way. This is cut number 7. Go.
I know it's hard. I know we all got to get through this at difficult times, but never forget it's Mardi Gras. And never forget that if we don't develop a sense of, you call it gallows humor, then the bastards have won. But they're not going to beat us because we're going to laugh at these motherfuckers and we're going to do it a lot, and we're going to laugh heartily, and we're going to laugh out loud, and then we're going to beat their come November and the November after that.
Wow.
God bless the United States of America. God bless the decent citizens that live in this country. And
like you.
All these in the White House.
Oh, okay, great. Wow, tough words, a couple of F-bombs. So authentic. Oh, by the way, let's see. So he says that Democrats are going to win this November, then they're going to win in 2028. Let's go through the list. Carville said that Hillary Clinton would win in a monumental landslide in 2016. Nope. Wrote, of course, the New York Times gives him huge real estate. Wrote a piece last year, just a couple days before the election, saying that he was absolutely confident that Kamala Harris will win and win easily. Whoops. So, yeah, let's keep going to this guy for predictions. Can one person who interviews this guy, and I know they're all liberals basically interviewing him, but once in a while when he does sit down with a conservative, just read back that little record of his as far as being horrible when it comes to predictions, and yet we got to keep hearing from him over and over again. Oh, by the way, he said that a year ago that Donald Trump was heading into the 20s on approval, and it was already the beginning of the end for him. The noose was tightening, walls closing in. You've heard all the different analogies. Wrong on everything. The Jim Cramer of Paul Krugman's of political predictions. Meanwhile, speaking of unity, let's hear from all of those folks on the Democratic side. This is just in the past couple of months alone. It goes on all the way back to actually to Trump's first term by the time we get through this little montage. But here is 2 full minutes of Democrats bringing the country together with the type of rhetoric that you would expect from the Unity Party. Cut number 8, go.
Let's extinguish him for good.
I will go and take Trump out tonight.
We're going to fight it in the courts, and we're going to fight it in the streets.
When they go low, we're going to bury them below the Capitol. That's what we're going to do.
We take them to the mud and choke them out.
There needs to be unrest in the streets for as long as there's unrest in our lives.
I just don't even know why there aren't uprisings all over the country, and maybe there will be.
We're walking down a damn different path. We're fighting fire with fire. We're going to punch these sons of bitches in the mouth. I take him behind the gym and beat the hell out of them.
Punch back, kick back, dunk over their heads, and win some power.
Fight back, punch back, and make sure that they stay down. And you know what? Kick them when they're down, because they deserve it.
I think that you punch. I think you punch. I think you're okay with you okay with punching.
We are at war. And that's why the gloves are off, and I say, bring it on.
We are not only going to punch you back, but we are going to knock you out.
Like we're in a war
going to knock you
to
out
save this country, and so you have to be willing to do whatever is necessary in order to save the country.
Well, I am here to tell you, not only are we going to punch back, but we about to beat you down.
And damn it, shut down the city! We are at war!
When they go low, we kick them.
Even in states where Donald Trump won big, that it does you any good running away from Donald Trump. I think you need to go back and punch him in the face.
Let's make sure we show up wherever we have to show up. And if you see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you create a crowd. And you push back on them. And you tell them they're not welcome anymore, anywhere.
Peace, love, and understanding. Oh, peace, love, and understanding. I mean, there's nothing really to add to that. Barack Obama, do not ever, ever say that your party is about bringing the country together. That's just 2 minutes. This is only a 1 hour show. Trust me. If I were going on for like a Rush Limbaugh type of time, 3 hours, I'd just play all 3 hours because it is out there. That's some pretty sick stuff, especially when you give the backdrop around it of Donald Trump was nearly assassinated twice, and they still speak this way. That's the unbelievable part about that. Anyway, before we go to break, shall we do a little Joy Reid? Yes, we should. She's on a ridiculous podcast, I guess, friends and relatives at least listen to, saying that when she was at MSNBC, before she was fired, of course, she couldn't go on the air and lie. It was impossible. The standards there are so high that no one would even think about lying on MSNBC. Cut number 12, go.
and lie. We had a standards and practices department. So if we weren't allowed to just get up there and lie. We had a standards and practices department. So if we just had a feeling that Trump was a bad guy, we couldn't just get up there and say that. We needed to actually have evidence. We needed to have something to say that was journalistically based.
Oh, like Trump colluded with the Kremlin to win the 2016 election? Oh, like COVID didn't come from a lab? Oh, like Joe Biden's laptop? Hunter Biden's laptop wasn't a product of Russian misinformation? Nah, you never lied on the air. Who are we kidding? Anyway, this is Concha at Night. Back with so much more in just a moment. It's peace, love, and understanding, baby.
I feel like this inside. There's one thing I want to know. What's so funny about peace, love, and understanding? Oh, what's so funny about peace, love, and understanding?
This is the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition.
Joe Concha.
Sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. This is the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition, sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Here's Joe Concha.
Tom, can you get me off the hook? For old time's sake.
Can't do it, Sally.
Can't do it, Sally. And then Fish from Barney Miller went off to his death. Deservedly so. You do not defy and try to destroy the Corleone family without revenge. And that was that. But he was just perfect in both of those movies, Godfather, Godfather 2. And a big criticism about Godfather 3, there's a lot of things about that, particularly Francis Ford Coppola's daughter, who was just sucked the air out of every scene. I could go off on that. And Pacino, like, dissolved into, like, Sentimental Woman Pacino at that point. You know, like he wasn't Michael Corleone anymore. I don't know. I have big problems with 3. And it seemed to be like, you know, Godfather 3, the search for more money. Like, it's all those years later. It had no connection to the first 2. But Duvall wasn't in 3. And Duvall was still very much active acting. That came out in 1990, I want to say. Right? And Bobby Duvall is like, no, I'm not going to sign on to this. And him not being in that particular movie, again, brought it down 5 notches from the originals. If I could go through my favorite Duvall movies of all time, Bobby Duvall, Godfather 1, Godfather 2. I know some people reverse those things. It's interchangeable. Network was awesome, by the way, 1976. I love Tender Mercies, which I believe he got an Oscar for. In The Natural, more of a supporting role, where he played a newspaper reporter, always trying to figure out exactly who Roy Hobbs, Robert Redford was. Constantly seemed to be rooting against him during the movie. The back and forth between Duvall and Redford, incredible. So I have that up there as well. Apocalypse Now, don't even get me started. Awesome movie. And then The Apostle, pretty good. He was in MASH for a little bit as well. I don't think people know that. So overall, just a great career that spanned many, many decades. Robert Duvall passing away today, unfortunately. Everybody paying their tributes on social media, and deservedly so. All right, so let's go with Joy Reid once again here, because I want to play the original clip again where she says she can never go up on MSNBC and lie. Well, she has a history of this before, so let's play cut number 12 and then cut number 13 back to back. Kevin, please go.
We weren't allowed to just get up there and lie. We had a standards and practices department. So if we just had a feeling that Trump was a bad guy, we couldn't just get up there and say that. We needed to actually have evidence. We needed to have something to say that was journalistically based.
Depending on who you believe, MSNBC anchor Joy Reid is either the victim of a sinister hack or someone with a long history of homophobic writings.
Okay.
Reid came under scrutiny this week for recently unearthed posts on her defunct blog from the 2000s. They were first tweeted out by somebody called Jamie Maz. Reid appeared to crassly mock gay celebrities, defend homophobia as intrinsic to straight people, and imply that gay advocacy groups prey upon impressionable teens.
And then after this blog was discovered, she had the the audacity to say that, no, actually, I was hacked. I didn't write any of this stuff. And even went to the FBI to file a report. Then later, when clearly it was shown it was technologically impossible without a time machine to do what she said happened to her blog, she kind of apologized and said that she, was just misunderstood and she regrets what she had written, kind of, and she doesn't even recognize that person. Anyway, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Great job by my producer, Kevin. Thank you to Eddie Van Halen, Alex Van Halen, and, of course, David Lee Roth, and a lot of Van Halen on the show, of course. What else can I say except we're going to miss Bobby Duvall, and The Godfather was not The Godfather when he was not in The Godfather in 3. I think I've made that point very clear. This is Joe Concha. 2 words for you. Bye-bye.
Rural Americans deserve access to the best of what our nation has to offer, especially healthcare. Across every state and every community, America's rural hospitals are the first line of defense, protecting our families, neighbors, and loved ones. No matter where you live, hospital care doesn't clock out. They're there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Each year, America's over 5,000 hospitals care for millions of patients, providing 24/7 emergency care, delivering babies, cancer treatments, and other life-saving care that patients rely on. Behind every one of those patients are doctors, nurses, and caregivers working tirelessly to keep people healthy and safe. Hospitals are our community's lifelines. They employ our neighbors and keep our families healthy. But now, some in Congress are threatening access to care. Tell Congress, protect patient care to keep America strong. Don't cut rural health care.